Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about the swing. And the swing is something that happens in a career. It can happen in a career. And so I just want to talk to you about it. I've gone through it, and I just want to share my experience with it. So the reason why I'm talking about the swing today is because of an interview between Jake from Abandoned and Bruce Narenberg, the ex-CEO of Premier Cruise Lines. This interview is available online, and you can watch it there. It's absolutely fascinating. It's a 50-minute interview between Jake from Abandoned and Bruce Narenberg. So in this video, Bruce Narenberg, the chief executive officer, ex-chief executive officer of the Premier Cruise Line, which no longer exists, went out of business in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s. And so Bruce did a ton of work and made a lot of money in Premier Cruise Lines. Right now, Premier Cruise Lines was really interesting. They had a few ships, and what they did was they made the kind of the non-cruise. They made a cruise that was it was an experience where it was like you were being kidnapped by pirates. And it was really fun, and people really liked it, and they would take you to an island that was not really built up and did not have tourists, and you could actually just kind of explore the island, right? So, and also, one other thing they did was they were one of the first cruise lines to really make the cruises comfortable for children. And so they really innovated in the space of cruises, right? So Premier Cruise Line, the owner of Premier Cruise Line, who is not Bruce Narenberg, they got very, very successful. And there was a point where a very large company came along and said to Premier Cruise Line, "We love what you guys are doing. We're going to offer you, here's X number of hundreds of millions of dollars, and we want to buy your company," right? And the owner said, "That's great. I like your offer. Let's do it." And so, this is Bruce Narenberg's telling of what occurred, okay? So Bruce says that at that point, this large company went and did their due diligence, and they said, okay, we've done our due diligence, and here's what we think you're worth. And they came back with a number that was lower, not by a whole lot, but lower than than what was originally offered. Well, the owner of Premier Cruise Lines got offended, and he let the whole deal go south. Okay. Now, at this point, this is the swing. This is what I'm talking about, right? So the owner of Premier Cruise Lines, he has an incredibly successful cruise company, which is doing work for Disney. I didn't even throw that in there. They had done all that innovation. It was so successful that Disney came along and started partnering with them. So Premier Cruise Line is actually integral to the start of the current Disney Cruise Lines, right? They're incredibly important in the history of American cruises. Okay, so at that point, you get this situation where that the owner of Premier Cruise Lines is on top of the world. He has large companies coming to him, making him offer. He has a large company coming to him and making him an offer, and that offer is in the hundreds of millions, right? So right now you're opening up champagne, right? Well, they say no, and the deal goes south. Okay. Now, nothing has changed for your business. Your business is still the same as it was. Nothing has changed, right? But here is where the swing happens, right? One, a deal this big, the people in your company are going to know about it. And when it goes south, it's going to have ramifications. People are going to jump ship, and that's no pun intended. And that's exactly what happened here. Was actually Bruce Narenberg said that as soon as this deal went south, within a week or two, him and his partner both sold their shares in the company. So now the owner of Premier Cruise Lines has a huge problem. He's just lost his two largest employees, and they're not as engaged in the business, if not gone. And at that point, you have taken a major hit, right? Now, at this point in actual history, that was the beginning of the end for Premier Cruise Lines, right? So when they lost, the people who had been running that company for 20 years or 10 or 20 years, they they lost. Really, the people who knew how to manage ships, the people who knew how to buy, the people who knew how to, who in the world is going to scout islands and buy property on and buy, rent an island for 5 to 10 to 15 years and build ports and buy ships. I mean, the expertise on this is immense, right? So when you lose, somebody with that kind of experience, you have a huge problem, right? So here's the swing. This happened to me once at a much smaller scale. So like 10 years ago, I was at a company and they came to me and they said, we love the work you're doing and we want to take you from this group and put you in this group, right? And I said, and I said, yeah, I actually, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's happened multiple times. So basically there was, so at that point, and it's going to be a bump, right? So I'm like, okay, that's a really good offer, but like where my group is right now, we're about to make these huge changes and we're going to do things that will really change how everything operates, right? And I've built a rapport with this team and I want to finish what we started with this team, right? So I just said, okay, hey, I'm gonna stay where I'm at, right? Well, this was a critical mistake. And one of the things I didn't know was I had been offered this because the group that I was in was about to be folded up completely. Like the entire group was laid off. And that's exactly what happened, right? This is like I said, about 10 years ago. And I lost my job, right? So within a week, we went from, hey, here's a bump and a new position to bye, right? So what I'm talking about with the swing is I want you to understand when you are presented with, and I learned this more clearly because when I listened to Bruce Narenberg talk to Jake from Abandoned, I remembered the swing, right? And so the swing is this situation where something good is presented to you, but if you don't take it, the bad can be very, very bad and it can be very fast, right? And so what I want to encourage people about is, one, if you haven't seen this and it happens to you, it can be highly stressful. It can be upsetting, right? And I just want to let you know that you can rest assured, okay? If you're in this situation, because you've brought value to the table and because you've done some important things and because your skill set is fundamentally strong and you have value as a person and as an employee and as just an entity in this world, okay? So that's what I'm saying is when this happens, just be ready. So one, watch for, hey, I have this huge opportunity in front of me, and realize sometimes big, crazy, wonderful opportunities have a bad slice on the other side, okay? Now, you should not be afraid of that slice, okay? If you are playing the game with, of life, especially in business nowadays, there's going to be some wins and losses, right? If you are just win, you're not doing it right. And if you're lose, you're not doing it right there either, right? So you got to adjust, right? But my point is, don't be surprised if you're chugging along in your career and you get this swing moment. So one, I'm telling people about this so that they can recognize it. Two, I'm telling people about it so that you won't be frightened when it occurs and you take a major loss. And the reason why is the reason you're seeing a major loss in your business career is you're in the thick of it. You're in the action, right? And where the action occurs, there's going to be some tumult. There's, it's like a storm. There's winds that blow things around. So, just understand that you're there because you brought value to the company and you were a major player in everything that was happening, right? So that's important. Just recognize that. And give yourself some solace and try not to worry, because I remember it was very worrying to me at the time because I didn't have a Scott Garibay on the YouTube to tell me what was happening or to give me some context to it all, right? But I weathered that storm and I came out with a job that was even better, right? And it was a storm that had to be weathered, and there was some struggles walking through it. But that's my point: is the swing happens, And it happened in my life. It happened in Bruce Narenberg's life, or actually, Bruce Narenberg was fine. The biggest issue there, well, I mean, actually, it happened with him too, because he was CEO of a company that went, it went south, and that's a problem. That's really a struggle, right? So I just wanted to give you a heads up about the swing. Just look for it and be aware and have courage through it, and know that you're there because you're a mover and a shaker. Thank you. Take care.